every rejection presents us an opportunity to learn something, to grow from it, to be better for the next attempt.
Hi, I'm Yana and you're watching YanaTV. Today in the studio with us we had Jit Puru, who is an author of a self-help book, You Deserve Happiness, a professional speaker and a founder of Ideas and Inspirations. Jit, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to talk about rejection. Jit, let's explain the people who are watching us, why do we feel it is important to talk about rejections?
We face rejections on a daily basis. Whether we like it or not, rejections is part and parcel of life. The only difference is, what kind of rejections are we experiencing and the sensitivity that we have towards that form of rejection. Say, for example, we go to a Starbucks, and today I really feel like having an oat milk chocolate frappuccino, okay? And I reach to the counter and I order it, and then the barista tells me that, oh, we're out of oat milk for today.
I would be heartbroken.
I know, right? But I would go like, okay, you know what? I really wanted it. Well, it's not the end of the world, It's just oat milk. So brush it off really quick. But let's just say right now there's someone that I really like, and I want to get to know that person. I build up that courage, I go to that person and I'm like, hey, you know what, can I take you out for dinner? And that person says no. Now suddenly...
It's not only about frappuccino.
No, it is. Now it's like, wow, there's this level of expectations of how the outcome would have turned out. Maybe you've already built like castles in the clouds and dreams and that all just comes crushing down. Suddenly the sensitivity towards that rejection, it's much higher than just a frappuccino. So end of the day, right, we face rejections on a daily basis. Some we know how to manage really well, some we don't. But the reality is, right, how we manage rejections is the same across the board. And once we learn how to manage rejections as a whole, right, we will feel a lot freer in life, because rejections, end of the day, rejections is both an act and an emotion, all right? The person who rejects an idea or a proposal that we are putting forth, all right, that person is exercising their right to say no to something that doesn't fit with them, all right? And that's a right that they can exercise, all right? But when receiving a rejection, the person who's on the receiving end, they experience the emotion of being rejected. And as human beings, we are all driven by emotions because we are emotional beings. Emotions affect our thoughts, our language, our actions, and our behaviors, and our outcomes, all right? And when we are experiencing rejection, rejection can trigger a lot of other emotions such as doubt, uncertainty. I feel dejected. I feel like, I'm not worthy. What's wrong with me? All that comes about, and when we leave that unmanaged, over time, it intensifies and it changes our entire outlook of life.
I do wonder what is then a more graceful way to deal with rejections, because it is something that is part of life, as you said, and we have it, in personal life, we have it in business life, we have it in social life, online, offline, everywhere, right?
Yes.
So pretty much anything you do, you have to learn how to deal with rejection. So how do we deal with rejections?
Well, you're absolutely right, Yana. Rejections is everywhere. Business life, for example, you put your heart and soul into trying to get a particular deal and the deal falls through and the client goes with someone else. I've experienced this many times before, where I put my heart and soul trying to pitch myself to speak at a particular event, and then I don't get the gig and someone else gets the gig. For whatever reasons it may be, I feel very dejected. I feel like I've been rejected. It could be relationships, it could be your partner says no to a marriage proposal, or the person that you like says no, and it could be that. It could also be just life in general, like you apply for a job and you don't get it, you don't get the promotion that you like. So there are many different ways how we can face rejection.
Or get fired from the job and you feel you tried really hard and then the boss fires you.
Absolutely, right? And in this day and age, it can happen so easily because companies are moving towards optimization, cost reduction.
AI stepping on our feet.
There you go. And it may not be a reflection of your performance, or who you are as a person. But very often, you see, that's the first thing that happens when
I
we
think
get
this
rejected.
is actually a very interesting point, that often, I mean, most of people take rejections very personally.
Very personally.
Because then it feels like I am rejected.
Exactly.
Maybe not my skill, not the job. I mean, if you are like a talent agency, maybe not the way how you look, right? People actually take it very personally because it's identification that I am whatever, and then this whatever gets rejected, and this is very painful.
Absolutely, because it's our identity, it's our soul. Who we are is who we feel is being rejected, but it may not be the case at all. Right? Someone says no to an idea or proposal that we are putting forth.
This particular moment, right? Maybe tomorrow is going to be different.
Absolutely. So if you ask me, right, coming back to the earlier question, how do we deal with rejections? What can we do to deal with rejections? First and foremost, okay, we have to accept rejection for what it is. All right? We have to accept rejection for what it is. We need to learn how to practice accepting rejection. Accepting does not mean we are resigning. We are not accepting the present for the future, but we are accepting the present outcome for what it is, because the truth is we cannot change the present outcome. What we can do is take action towards changing the future, but what's happened in the present has happened in the present, and we have to accept the rejection for whatever that it is, all right? And we can't get caught in this scenario or this cycle where we're looking at the past like, oh man, what if I didn't do this? What if I said that? Because if we look at life, right? Life is a timeline. There's the past, present, future, all right? The past is what has already happened. The present is right now, where we are breathing, right? And the future is what is to come. Physically, you can only be where you are breathing, which is in the present. But mentally, we can live in the past, we can live in the present, we can live in the future. And the disconnect comes from most of us, spend more time in the past thinking of what could have been done better, or we are spending time in the future thinking of what could come. But we spend very little time in the present and accepting the present for what it is. And when we can learn how to do that, when we can learn how to be in the present, because the present is an eternal now, it's a perpetual moment. So when we can accept the present for what it is, with the understanding that we cannot change the present, good, bad, ugly, we have to accept it, and rejections is often looked at as something very disheartening, something very bad, something very ugly. But if we can learn to accept it, that hey, it's happened, right? There's nothing we can do about it in the moment, but we have now options to shape the future, right?
And
then
choose,
I can decide.
right?
And
how
choose.
to react to that.
Exactly.
Yeah. We are in Singapore.
Yep.
So I'm just curious, if we look at everything from maybe even more focused Asian perspective, because also I find around the world, people deal with rejections in a different way. Like, what do you feel in your experience, let's say in this part of the world, how people are dealing with rejections?
Well, I think, one thing about being in this part of the world, a lot of us are not very open with our emotions. We tend to keep it all inside. We tend to suppress it. It could be upbringing. Like, whenever there's a measure of vulnerability being shown, everyone just says, hey, you know what, just come on, man. It's nothing, just buck up, So we don't get into this habit of wearing our heart on our sleeves and being vulnerable. And because of that, everything is suppressed. It's a suppression of emotions. But think about a bottle of Coke, right? And you throw a Mentos in and you cover it, you cap it really tight. What's going to happen?
Going to be a disaster.
Pressure is going to build up and eventually it's going to explode. We are just like that. If we keep suppressing how we feel, our emotions, right? Eventually it's going to explode. So this is where I think we need an outlet. A lot of times in the West, people are more vocal with how they feel. They are more verbal with how they feel. They want to talk about it. They want to share about it. You go to TikTok these days and you will see so many videos, people just sharing about everything that's going on in their life. But this is an outlet, right? And what happens is when you let out what's bugging you inside, it will now present you with an opportunity to heal from within. Some people don't take that opportunity to heal, they just use the outlet as a validation for their life, and that becomes habitual. So now it's just about venting, but there's no learning that comes out of it. So I think first and foremost, having that outlet helps. And for us, being in a part of the world that, let's just say, if you are not very accustomed to talking about your feelings, right? My advice would be start writing about your feelings. Because you're writing it for yourself, it's a form of journaling where every time, let's just say you are feeling a sense of rejection, even from the smallest rejection where you feel it's not a big deal, like for example,
Frappuccino,
no
I
oat milk
remember.
Frappuccino at Starbucks, right? This is practicing rejection, meaning you can write it down. Hey, ordered a oat milk Frappuccino today. They ran out of oat milk, and I accept that this has happened. What can I learn from this? Then maybe extract some learning lessons. Of course, if you have a positive support system around you, people that you can really talk to, that's the next best thing as well. So it's getting into the habit of accepting the present for what it is. Accepting doesn't mean resignation, doesn't mean you tolerate, a toxic relationship, let's just say, that you tolerate a
That's
dysfunctional...
That's a very important point, actually.
Because,
exactly, the healthy boundaries about rejection here,
that's
right?
The thing. Because that's the other thing, I think, with a lot of people. We feel that to accept means to tolerate, We also have to understand that we are not accepting the behaviors and actions of another person because that's about them. We are accepting how we feel, how we think, and how we are acting, and how we want to act. In other words, we're accepting me, and we're accepting this outcome for what it is, and then it's about making the choice for what's next. What do I do next? What are my next action towards something better? So say, for example, dream job, really wanted it, applied it, put your heart and soul for the interview, prepared over and over and over again, went for the interview. In your mind, you thought it went really well. A couple of weeks later, you don't hear from the recruiter, you call up and they say they went with someone else. It's heartbreaking.
It is.
It is, right? So how do you move on from that? Okay, so say you can talk about it, you can write it, but the most important is, hey, accepting the fact that this has happened, and it may not have been about how I performed. Someone else could have really been a better fit. Maybe they just couldn't afford me, and because of that, they didn't want to hire me. I can't change what has already happened. Right now, I think about what am I going to do next. Okay, so what can I learn from this interview? What are some key learning lessons I can extract from this experience? Because the past gives us that opportunities to learn, but we have to really look into it objectively. What can I learn, and what positive takeaways can I take out of it? So meaning like, okay, so maybe here are some of the things I could have answered a little differently. It's a learning process so that you can prep yourself for the next interview. But if you continue crying over spilled milk, you're not even going to prep yourself for the next interview. So in that essence, it's about moving forward, understanding the now is perpetual. I want to learn from the past. I want to be in the present so that I can take the actions to shape the future.
You also spoke about social media.
Yes.
So I'm just curious to ask, what do you think, since you did give an example, there are a lot of people who actually go on all kinds of social media and share very personal things very publicly, probably more in the Western culture than in the Eastern culture. However, what do you think about it?
Social media is a tool, and as with any tool in this world, it can be used for positive or it can be used for negative. It can bring about positive outcomes, it can bring about negative outcomes. It comes back to how are we using it? Are we exercising the right approach? Are we being responsible with what we're doing? Because the reality is, right, social media is a great way to build a community and connect with like-minded people. And at the same time, it's a great outlet, right? So for example, if I'm going through a hard time in life, okay, and I'm sharing about my hard time through social media, I may now not only attract people who could be in the same boat as I am, but people who have overcome that hurdle and have experience may also reach out with a positive support system which can help me move forward. And eventually, I could also look at it as, how I can help other people who are in the same boat. So I think that why are we doing it matters. All right? At the very least, it's an outlet. Okay? But when it becomes a habit, an unconscious habit where I keep unconsciously, right, I'm looking for bad things to happen so that I can talk about it in social media, because the other thing that happens on social media is you get the attention. And remember what we talked about, right? Rejection is when someone dismisses an idea. The opposite of rejection is acceptance.
Yes.
Right? And when you're getting that attention through social media, you are getting accepted. You're feeling accepted. The danger is when you fall in love with this attention, when you fall in love with this acceptance, now unconsciously a self-destruct cycle may happen because you constantly look for pain so that you can feel validated, you get the attention. So this is where I think we must know why we're doing it. Be very clear that, hey, this is my outlet, this is my community, this is my support system. The reason why I'm sharing is so that, first of all, I don't feel alone. Next, someone else who's going through what I'm going through doesn't feel alone. So we can now provide the support system for each other to lift each other up in this journey. All right? Third, it could be to get help from someone else who may have been in our situation, for them to come on board and show us how to do it. So as long as I think we are clear about why we're doing something, I think it's a great tool.
Love that. I love it, Jit. I love it. You're writing a book.
Yes.
So I'm just very curious also to ask you a few questions about that, because it is sort of directly or indirectly the book is about rejections.
It is.
But it's also very specifically, it's rejections for people in sales, right? Because that probably type of people that would have to deal with rejections more than any other type. So can you tell us a bit more about the book and perhaps give us a few tips how anyone, not only in sales, can process rejections besides what we talked already about?
Sure. Yes, I'm writing a new book, and it is for salespeople, and it's about how to pick yourselves up from rejection. And that's simply because rejections, like I said, it's part and parcel of life, right? And salespeople, in my opinion, go through the most amount of rejections on a daily basis.
Trains the character.
Yeah, because I've been in sales before, all right? I still remember when I was part of the outsourced sales and marketing events team. My task was to be part of a team, and we were out at road shows, at bus interchanges, MRT stations, shopping malls, and we were out there trying to ask people to sign up for free credit cards, right? I thought I had the recipe for sales success, because the truth is, I've had my people skills. I know how to deal with people, I know how to manage people, I have the interpersonal skills, right? I was a real estate agent before, dealing with products that, range in the millions of dollars, apartments, condominiums, and I've closed some sales there, high ticket items, So I thought, now I'm doing roadshows and events, I get volumes of people walking towards me, people are abundant, the product is absolutely free, it doesn't cost people anything to sign up, and the product is a credit card which they can use to, for their everyday spending and get rewarded for it. It's a no-brainer, right? Little did I know that even a free product is hard to sell.
It's hard to sell. Actually, I would add sometimes, especially free product is hard to sell.
So I was out every day, right? And all it took was 3 days. I wanted to quit. That's all I wanted to do, right? Even though I've been used to rejections in real estate, but here 3 days I wanted to quit. The difference was the volumes of rejection I was getting in that 3 days.
It was very overwhelming, right?
It's overwhelming. It's like a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. It intensifies. By the first day I'm thinking, man, am I even cut out for this? If no one wants to buy a free product, Why would anybody want to buy anything else that I'm selling, right? So sales, right? The more people you meet in sales, the higher your opportunities of closing a sale, the higher your probabilities of closing a sale. The more people you meet in sales, the more rejections you're going to get. And this is the sales rejection paradox. Okay, so rejections is part and parcel of sales, and salespeople do receive the most number of rejections on a daily basis. And when the rejections get to the point where they can't manage it anymore, it isn't the skills to sell that disappear, it is the will to sell. And that is why so many people drop out of sales. It's not because the dream isn't real, it's not because they can't achieve what they want to achieve through sales. They've just lost the will of selling because they're feeling dejected, they're feeling deflated, they're feeling demotivated, they're feeling like they're not worth anything to anyone. They doubt their abilities, they doubt their capabilities, they doubt whether it's even going to work out. I know all this because I was on that end.
So what do you feel is the best tip for anyone? I'm like, okay, give, I know you're writing the book, however.
I suppose the best tip still goes back to we can't change the present. A rejection is a rejection. It's accepting that rejections are part and parcel of life. Don't take it personally,
Don't take it personally, that's probably the tip.
Learn from it, Every rejection presents us an opportunity to learn something, to grow from it, to be better for the next attempt, right? In sales, right? Sales is very easy, it's 4 steps. 1, have something to sell. 2, keep a lookout for the people who may need what you're selling. 3, tell them about what you're selling. And 4, ask them if they want to buy what you're selling. At the end of these 4 steps, only one of 2 things happen. Either they say yes or no. Either way, you go back to step 1 and you repeat the process. Which means, right, you are going to get some yeses, you're going to get a lot of no's, but you still have to go back to step 1 and repeat the process. Life is pretty much the same way, right? No matter what rejections we get, tomorrow's a brand new day, the sun's going to rise again, we are going to go out, we are going to approach life again. So the question and the choice is this, and it's a choice. How do we want to approach life? Do we want to approach life feeling dejected? Or do we want to approach life feeling empowered, feeling on top of the world, feeling good? And there are many ways we can do it to reset our emotions, but it has to start with the acceptance that, what has happened, but tomorrow is a brand new day, the sun will rise, the skies will clear up. What can I learn from yesterday that will help me today to shape a better tomorrow? And as long as we can do that on a daily basis, practice it, we will feel that measure of freedom. And
thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
That was Jit Puru on YanaTV, and we did talk about rejection a lot and in details, looking at it from all possible angles. So both Jit and I would love to hear from you guys. How do you deal with rejections? Are there any tips or tools specifically for you which helped? Let's be generous, share in the comments. I would love to hear from you. And we are very grateful to Muse Studio for hosting YanaTV. Remember to subscribe, share episodes with friends, and I'm gonna see you next time. Vulnerable on social media. It's funny how the algorithm works. You do get more attention than when you talk about things when you're perfectly fine.